We're back once again. Charmer, did you realize, oh, by the way, congratulations for escaping the carbonite. I'm very happy that you are back with us. Not in the land of the living necessarily, right? Because you were alive. You were just in suspended animation. Are you getting over the hibernation sickness? Is that going okay?
Yeah, it took a while. I did not realize that the defrost setting was so heinous.
Sounds rough.
I feel bad for every, chicken I've defrosted in my microwave. I was also very shocked because, when I went into suspended animation, my hands were handcuffed in front of me. But when my wife was sending me photos, and when I was in carbonite, I was with my hands up. And so clearly something happened during the freezing process. But everything's okay now. A little stiff, if you will. But in many ways, it got me ready for the chilly holiday season. So there is that.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, that's one way to get into the festive spirit is to be frozen solid, I suppose. Yeah, not since Christopher Lloyd in Suburban Commando has someone been so thoroughly frozen and then thawed out just fine, That came after Return of the Jedi.
I am a regular, Encino Man, I think.
That's right. Yeah, oh man, which came out first now? Encino Man or Suburban Commando? Well, that's a conversation for a different podcast, I suppose. Either way, you're here to watch some Star Wars Unlimited gameplay, right? And this is episode 10 of Conquer the Cave. We've made it all the way to episode 10 thanks to our amazing Discord viewers that have been stepping up, playing some awesome games. It's been great to see. So I'll just say this at the beginning. I usually say it at the end, but there's a link to the sign-up sheet in our Discord. Go join it. Go sign up. We've got a ton of stuff planned for 2025 as far as a lot more episodes of this. And I eventually want to do like a tournament of champions. I want to kind of, now that we've used this as sort of a test bed for competitive content via webcam, I think we can do a lot more with it in the next year. So join in the Discord and then join in those events as they pop up in 2025. But we're here to talk about our match today. We've got none other than NinjaFerret taking on RedHuskyEverett, I believe is the name. Well, we'll double check that when we look at the deck list as well. But NinjaFerret bringing the scourge of Davy Jones down, denying him his fourth week win in a row. Now we get to see if NinjaFerret can manage to get even two. We'll have to find out. But I'm ready to look at the deck list. Let's jump over and check those out. And I think you're going to be happy with the deck list we're going to see today, Charmer. At least the first one anyway, because we have double blue Yoda from NinjaFerret.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, what do you think? What do you think?
I have not seen these lists before. As you know, I am a big fan of Yoda. I continue to try to make it work. It's down to one of the two lists that I'm considering for the local planetary qualifier that I'm going to be playing in. And I keep coming back to Yoda because it can do some incredibly powerful things, especially with You're My Only Hope. And we see that here in this list. The reason that I really like Yoda, though, is it can be a powerful deck even if you don't pull off the combo. He is a very, very good control leader because the ability to kind of dig for whatever answer you need at the right time is important. He deploys and usually takes out another unit when he deploys. He is very sticky. He's hard to get rid of. He's got the restore. So he's got all the tools. Now, the version that I pilot is a blue-red version, and it's not double blue. Because I like a lot of the red removal package, and I like cards like Tarkin Town to give you triggers for your Yoda ability without having to sink resources into it. That being said, if I was going to run a double blue version, this looks right up my alley. I love the main deck Vigilance here. I think that that's going to make it an incredible tool against other slower decks. And I also love stuff like Tech, for example, because you can extend your reach with some of these big drops. Happy to see that this person's also running Redemption. That is a card that I have completely come around on now that we're a couple of sets in. And if I'm running any sort of heroism control, I've been rocking 3 of them because it's just such an outstanding stabilizer.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like such a big comeback when you use a full 8 health to jump back, and then you have the Sentinel in space to ideally absorb another hit or something, especially with how space-heavy things have gone. So minimum 2 in the main deck seems solid. I like the inclusion of Razor Crest. People have been using 1-ofs in there, 2-ofs sometimes to bring back the perilous positions. So you've got a good, solid double blue list. You've got single cards like the Kanan Jarrus as well, the Rey, which can get you some benefit here and there. I'm curious to see if we're going to get the Ki Adimundi online as far as the coordinate and the card draw with that, but it's an interesting list. I like the one Zillow Beast in the main deck too. There's a little bit of spice in here, I think.
Yeah, there's some spice. I also really like the inclusion of C-3PO because, again, if you are putting things back on top of your deck with Yoda, then you know what it's going to be. So that can turn into a card draw engine.
Yeah.
Same thing with cards like Kuil. Kuil is a great way to know exactly what's going to be there before you trigger his on attack. So if you need to, for example, you can stick something from your hand on top to purposefully get it back, but you get to keep whatever you dug for.
Right.
So I'm a big fan of that as well. The other thing, I'm curious to see if it comes up in this. The big reason that I've really come around on Redemption is that it catches, I think, a lot of people off guard that doesn't just have to heal your base. It can heal from units as well. And the number of times where I have messed with people's combat math with that has been kind of staggering since I started including it. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how Redemption gets utilized in this matchup.
Yeah, well, let's see what NinjaFerret's going to be running this list into. It's going to be none other than some Command Han 1 action. And a little bit tempo-y here, but this is kind of an interesting list. I like the name, Ewing in a Prayer. But the single main deck evacuate, I feel like my Wat Tambor list is scaring people a little bit too much here. It's like, I don't know if you're going to be running into a million droids that often, but against some more aggressive lists, and again, these two players don't really know what the other one is going to run. It's maybe a worthy include. I think that's kind of spicy here too, but we've got a lot of the great Han 7s, right? We've got the Han 1 unit from Spark of Rebellion. That's just a great, ambush into, staying alive. The new Enfys Nest is a really, really good card in this deck, I think, because it can just keep bouncing things. Very surprisingly and very quickly too. But you've got some of the other new additions as well. The new R2 I think is pretty good for setting up your early game. You've got the Cloud Riders in there as well. This isn't really the type of list, the Han list that I play, but I kind of like where he's going with it. I'm curious to see how it's going to perform. There's a lot of interesting stuff in here, even like one clone in the sideboard too. Some wild stuff here.
Yeah, this list is interesting because it feels a bit more like a toolbox. I think the versions that you have run in the past, for example, is the more what I would describe as like mid-range game plan, where you're just trying to make sure you hit the most powerful units with your Ewing or most powerful units on curve with your Han Solo. This feels a bit more like, hey, I have a lot of 1 and 2 ofs in here, but maybe I'm going to hit exactly what I need when I need it. And the evacuate speaks to that. Now, I will say it's not even just the tokens. If you have a slow start, being able to hit your evacuate the turn before you do your Ewing means that you might be able to reset the board. And then if you hit powerful units, that you'll just be back to being either on par or even ahead on board.
That's a good point.
So I do like the inclusion of that as a one of.
Yeah. I'm curious to see if the Plo Koon is ever going to get the coordinate Raid 3, just because this isn't the type of deck that generally has a lot of units surviving on board. So I'm wondering how often that's going to happen, but I guess we can find out soon. I think it might be time to get in the games. What do you think?
Yeah.
All right.
I'm ready to see how they fare.
Yeah, let's do it. This is going to be an interesting one. All right, and here we go. It is none other than NinjaFerret, our current reigning conqueror of the cave, on the left side of your screen right now. Going for the fifth. There we go. Okay, we got it. We got it. And then RedHuskyEverett, let me say that correctly, our challenger on the right side of the screen here. And we'll see what happens. Double Blue Yoda versus Han Command, but an interesting, like you said, and I like that description, toolbox version of Han Solo from set 1. Han 1 is just, it never gets old, right? I feel like this is a leader that's just going to always be good while it's around.
Yeah, or at least be part of a conversation when you're trying to gauge a meta, just because if you can cheat out things a turn early, that is a very big advantage in terms of dictating the pace of play, forcing your opponent to answer things before they would have expected to, etc. I just wanted to commend you because the crown on Yoda in your graphic just looks perfect. Like, it is top-notch placement, sir. That was the first thing I noticed. I was like, man, Yoda looks good with a crown.
Yeah, I try, whenever I'm making these graphics, spoiler alert, I make all the graphics. By the way, we're also recording this late at night after taking care of like our various kids all day and all that. So I'm going to be like struggling putting sentences together. I'm going to do my best. But yeah, I mean, like, I was trying to get the crown decently on the head of the hero of the current reigning champion. So I'm glad you appreciate that.
Yeah, I was going to say we're filming this on the night of Christmas Adam, which is the night before Christmas Eve, because
Christmas
Adam came
Eve.
before Eve.
There you go. Yeah. It was the night before Christmas Eve. And all through the, I don't know, Discord, not a aggro was seen because I can't. I'm too tired to yawn right now. It's going to be a Hanability for a resource over on RedHuskyEverett side. There's the C3PO that you talked about. Good start for NinjaFerret. That's definitely something you want to see early. Didn't get the whatever he was calling off the top there, though.
Yeah, that was, I think, just, the blind when played. Oh, Han starting with the classic ramp, but that is perfect because that means that you will stay that resource ahead, and then you can jump up again if you really need to hit something big. It does obviously eat away at your hand in the early game, but sometimes that is worth the trade-off.
That's the thing. That's the thing with the Han 1 decks is that you do need to be careful about what you're playing when from your hand, because you don't want to end up in a situation where you get to your Han flip turn and you realize your last card would be giving you that 7 resources, and that's the card you want to play. That's 7 resources. So there's that. If you're piloting this deck for the first time, you might get caught by that once or twice, but you'll learn. It doesn't take too long. Anyway.
Yeah. So that being said, here we're going to start with a C3PO attack. We're going to resolve that trigger first. Again, blind because we haven't activated Yoda. Also, shout out to NinjaFerret because that's a fantastic looking showcase. I'm a bit envious. If I owned a showcase Yoda, I'd for sure be jamming Yoda at my planetary qualifier, but
that's the main reason he built it. I know he's actually one of my locals. We've played against each other many times. I said it on the last show, but as a Bright Hope comes down early, wow. I've said it many times before, but NinjaFerret is the player that beat me in the finals of a store showdown twice in a row. So he's kind of my nemesis here. So not that I'm rooting against him, but we've got a history, we've got a competitive history here.
With that in mind, I might have to share with him my Yoda list to just have him put games on it and tell me how far off I am. And with that in mind, NinjaFerret deploys his own Sentinel in space, and we're going to have a bit of a stare down here because neither one of them really wants to swing into the other one.
Yeah, this could end up getting a little bit long now that we see the start here. We'll have to see how it goes. Again, these matches are not timed. We don't want any of our Conquer the Cave matches to end with like a time thing. So we just say play it out, and we'll see what happens. This is the first time I feel like we've ever had two slower decks against each other. We've had plenty of control decks, but I feel like it's always either been into like mid-range or aggro, right?
Yeah, and with that being said, I think RedHuskyEverett needs to kind of realize that, yes, his deck has some larger threats, but he essentially has to be the beatdown here because the late game of NinjaFerret is almost always just going to be better. The Lukes are such a great way to kind of top off the board. The redemptions mean that he can pull ahead in the late game. We've obviously got the Zillow Beast that we saw on the list. And here comes my favorite card from set 3.
That's right. Oh, and this is one of, we were all scared about Rival's Fall, right? When you flip your leader, it's like dead. No, this is a fate worse than Death Charmer. Getting -2/-2 and exhausted. Do you realize what this does to the Han Solo list? He can't make that 7th resource now.
That is correct because he does not get the attack and therefore you don't get the trigger. And so another thing, it's not going to matter here because we have the double vigilance version of Yoda. But another thing that I've really been enjoying lately is using this perilous position to trigger things where your opponent cares about upgrades. You and I were talking before we started filming this about Imperial space units, right? And I had mentioned to you like, hey, punishing 1 is better than it looks. It's in part because of perilous position, right? You can put this on a unit, swing with your punishing 1, and then ready it when that perilous position unit goes away. But it's just such a powerful, flexible tool. I fell in love with it at my pre-release for set 3, and I have jammed it into every blue deck I've built ever since and not looked back.
It is easily one of the all-stars in set 3 for sure. And did you see that? RedHuskyEverett just claimed initiative, didn't get to do anything with those 6 resources, and that hurts. I mean, but the thing is, this is one of the problems with playing Han 1 now, is that everybody knows you want to play a 7 cost on your flip turn. And so if everybody knows that, pretty much everybody's going to have a plan. but that perilous position just gives you such an easy answer there. 2 damage comes in. Looks like from something I missed out a little bit earlier, I guess.
The 2 damage, if you're referring to
from
Red
Han.
Husky, has been from C-3PO.
Oh, no, I meant onto the base of NinjaFerret, and that's from the Han,
that was just now with Han. Yep.
I forgot that. I forgot for a second the -2, and I was like, what's doing 2 damage?
Yeah, that's why that card's so good.
Yeah, Bright Hope didn't get through, but yeah, it's exactly. That's now a what, 2/4 over there? Yeah, it's crazy. U-Wing Reinforcements, though, comes in. What has he got in store here? In the deck, we know the Emphas Nest is in there. That would be nice to bounce the Concord Dawn Interceptors, I guess. I mean, I think you'd be happy seeing the Han 1 unit, the Set 1 Han unit. We'll see. What's it going to be?
Yeah, I do feel like the Set 1 Han unit would be solid. You could also look for like a pair. Something like an R2D2 along with a Marauder to maybe clean up the Concord would have been nice, but
we got a Kira.
Instead, we have the Kira, so you get some information. We do see the Vanquish and the Vigilance. Both of those are, I think, likely targets.
Redemption in there too, but I'd be really inclined to get rid of the Vigilance, or at least not get rid of it, but just make it more expensive. And then there's the Echo-based Defender. Remember, you've got 7 resources to work with U-Wing Reinforcements. Kira being 4, Echo-based Echo-base Defender in the month of December is going to make it 7.
All right. Now, we obviously can't hear their audio here at the moment, but it's very apparent based on the amount of resources played that it was not the Village Protectors that was chosen.
True.
Again, I'm leaning toward the same thing that you are. The Vigilance, it's already playable next turn, even if you... Well, is Kira +3? We might delay it a little bit longer, but
it's
Vigilance
+3,
or Vanquish are your 2 choices, but I feel like Vanquish just... You send it out of the park and then you kind of force them to work their way into using the Vigilance because it's a bit more conditional, but both those cards are scary, so I could see naming either one of them.
Yeah, it kind of depends on, what's in the hand of RedHuskyEverett as well, I suppose, as far as, what's the game plan? What do you want to make sure you get rid of that would cause you the most problems? Because it is +3 to cost while it's in the hand, while Kira's alive, and that's a problem. So, speaking of problems, there's a good amount of damage on the side of the board of our challenger here, but we're starting to get into that late game zone with Yoda, right? We're getting close to when Yoda's going to flip. We're getting close to where a lot of the restore is going to come online. Not that NinjaFerret even needs it. And if you're a Han deck that just hasn't really gotten in with much of any damage so far, it gets a little bit scary.
It does get a little bit scary. One of the other things that I think is going to be really interesting as we kind of play through these games is with NinjaFerret running Vigilance main deck and being able to play it very effectively, right? Because of the 2 blue. The thing about Vigilance is even if you don't need the healing, you can just play them early, right? You could defeat a unit with 3 or less health. So here, for example, if you wanted, you could use it to get rid of the Echo-based Defender, and then you could just choose to discard 6 cards from your opponent's deck.
Yeah.
That is actually really effective against Han because they're already stretching themselves kind of thin as far as the hand goes, but also with the U-Wing, they're trying to hit certain threats. And so if you can take those out of the equation before they ever have a chance to be a problem, that might have a lot of strategic potential.
It's a really good point. I hadn't even thought of that. Wow, another perilous position on the Echo-based Defender this time, and that is just rough. Everything is perilously positioned at this point. Everything is hanging on for dear life because that Echo-based Defender just has 1 HP remaining at this point. But yeah, that is rough. But I agree with your point there that Han is even more vulnerable to card removal via things like Vigilance than other leaders are.
Yeah, and I was just thinking, you look at the situation, right? You've only got 2 damage on your base. You could save the Vigilance till you've taken damage and then heal the 5, but you've got a leader with Restore. You've got a bunch of other units in your deck that have Restore. There's kind of no reason to sit on a Vigilance that long when you have 3 of them in your deck as well. Yeah. I would be very tempted to just use it as removal, but also trigger the discard 6 from the deck because it just puts a clock on your opponent.
Totally. Yeah, totally. The extra bad thing, too, with the perilous positions, going back to that for a moment, is that we know the Razor Crest is in there, too, to bring one of those back. So those are just going to get bounced and bounced and bounced. Another C-3PO. That C-3PO has been around since the beginning of the game here. And I could see where this might take a little while. There's the Emphas Nest. Okay, so what's gonna get bounced here? I think you can bounce your own stuff too, or is it only opponents? I need to look this up. Return enemy. It's
the
only
new
enemy.
Emphas Nest is only enemy, non-leader.
All right. I haven't played it enough myself to recall, but yeah, it's only enemy. I just looked it up. And C-3PO takes down the Echo-based defender, and he's going to find that Ki-Adi-Mundi off the top.
And he survives.
Yeah. That is kind of hilarious. 2 damage done by Bright Hope from space. I strike at thee.
I'm trying to visualize, right? You and I have watched so much Star Wars. I'm trying to visualize a situation where C-3PO walks up to like a trained soldier and wins that fight.
There was like the Dark Droids comic arc where like C-3PO and a bunch of them got like taken over by this evil alien entity and became like murderous and lethal. That's the only situation I can think of. Unless you're talking about playing the old, what was it? Westwood, I think it was. There was a company that made an old D6-based Star Wars tabletop RPG. So in that, maybe the Dungeon Master just decides C-3PO's had enough,
Yeah.
Yeah. Taking too much abuse.
Sometimes you hit that critical hit. So here's the one downside to playing Han is you usually have a ton of resources, and now we see poor RedHuskyEverett checking every one for smuggle, because there are some good smuggle options in this list. We saw the blaster, obviously it's running tech, things like that, so you do kind of have to keep an eye on those things, but it results in a bit of bookkeeping, I'll say that.
Having played the Han list and do a lot of control blue lists over time, if you get to this point in the game where you haven't put a lot of damage on them, they've got a good amount of cards in hand, you've got the tech, you're so afraid to play it because you're just like, they obviously have an answer. They're going to take down it. They're going to do something to just kill it immediately. So even turns with that tech could save you, you're still so afraid to play it. All right, and there goes Luke to take out Han here, which is another thing you don't see in the movies.
Yeah, I mean, you don't see that, but Luke, as I said, is just a great late game play here. And again, it's just speaking to what I was saying earlier, where you can rely on your leader that has restore. You've got units that have restore. In this case, the Luke is a big restore 3, and there's not a lot of ways for this Han list to efficiently get rid of that Luke. You've got some options where you could like bounce it to your hand, but I don't really consider that to be super efficient because obviously they get to when played again.
I don't think you'd want to do that, no.
Yeah, this is a danger zone again where you are kind of racing against the clock and there's just too much healing. You there's a vigilance in hand, and very clearly NinjaFerret is sitting on that vigilance for the healing, not interested in the kind of discard from the deck strategy that I was leaning toward. But again, I also just like punishing my Han opponents and really just, like I said, putting that clock on them, because even if you don't hit anything good, you're also saying to them, I've got 3 of these vigilances, and if I hit them all, that's 18 cards from your deck. If you're new to the game or you just haven't ran into this scenario, you might not know this, but if you would draw a card and you can't in Star Wars Unlimited, you instead take 3 damage per card. So if you deck somebody out, they start taking a lot of damage very quickly, and so that is a legitimate way to kind of end this game. But we do see damage coming in on the base of NinjaFerret now, so the healing is, hitting the stage where it's relevant, and so we see the Yoda deploy.
Yeah, I guess the question now is what answers? Well, there you go. All right, that'll do it. I mean, and we saw him use the Yoda ability. We know that was set up in advance, but to drop the redemption on the Yoda flip to take out the Emphas Nest has to feel pretty good for NinjaFerret, and kind of the opposite for RedHuskyEverett, I would imagine. But now at the point where what I was about to say is, how in the world do you handle a Luke Skywalker Jedi Knight and a Yoda leader out on the board at the same time here? You play home 1 in the air, I guess, is one answer. What can he bring back here? Maybe the Echo-based defender seems like the logical choice here, but no, he's going to bring back the Leia. Oh, to exhaust the Yoda. That's kind of an interesting little trick. it doesn't do anything permanent, but it does delay, and it does prevent a little bit of restore from hitting the base of NinjaFerret there at least.
Yeah, that's, I think, the big takeaway there is that you prevent that restore 3, and you still have to have an answer for the units. Excuse me, I think it actually might be restore 2 now that I think about it.
On Yoda?
It's restore 3 on the Luke. Yep, restore 2. But still, you prevent the restore 2. Your opponent has essentially 10 healing that you know about. You've got the Luke, you've got the Yoda. That's 3 and 2, and then the 5 on the Vigilance as well. So any sort of like damage you can stick on the base and delay them from gaining is going to be really beneficial.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I'm wondering now what NinjaFerret has to deal with this home 1 in the air, because that is a lot of damage, and giving everything restore too. You know, I mean, I think restore also is what I mean, not restore the number 2. But I feel like from the NinjaFerret side of things, you're almost kind of going for the deck them out strategy at this point here. You know, depending on how long Luke lives, I guess.
Yeah, it's something that I think I would have transitioned to a little bit ago, even more so now that you see home 1, because now your opponent has a ton of restore available to themselves. As far as potential answers go, now that Kira's off the board, I think you kind of have to assume that the Vanquish is now fair play, and that could answer the home 1.
True. Oh, Han comes in and finishes off Yoda. That's a nice play for RedHuskyEverett there. Clean kill on the leader there. Han doesn't take any damage, obviously. So now, does Luke go in and finish off Han, or do you go to base, try to get some damage done and a little bit of restore?
Well, I think we're going to start with this Vanquish before you take too much. The Han has already done its job, so you can swing with that Luke later. You just want to prevent that damage on your base now, so take it while you can. That being said, I do think that sending Luke to clean up Han makes an awful lot of sense here, just because you don't want him to stick around and hit you with like a blaster, right? If you leave the Han on the table and Husky has initiative, you could use the blaster to then take out the Luke, and then your Han's around and you just didn't get that value while you could.
Very true. Yeah, it looks like he's going to just run Luke into the Han. And why not, right? Restore 3, back down to 11 on base now. And with another Concord Dawn interceptors in the air, too, that Bright Hope can't even get in for a little bit of chip damage. So we're going to go to the next action phase, it looks like. And we are deep, deep into the late game now.
And yeah, it's 11-1.
Yep, sure is. I mean, these are just 2 decks that are probably going to play pretty slowly into each other, I would say.
I don't necessarily think they're playing slowly. It's just we've hit the stage where...
No, you know what I mean. Like
one deck is very good at surviving, and the other one is just not capable of generating pressure.
Yeah.
And the deck that's very good at surviving, it doesn't have like a burst win condition, right? So you've got some really big plays that you can play, even if you get something like a Zillow Beast that can be really impactful, but it still takes a lot of turns for that to kind of close things out when your opponent has still got 29 health on their base.
Yeah, it's going to take a while. All right. And I believe NinjaFerret has the initiative here if they're sticking with the... Nope, looks like it's going to be RedHuskyEverett. Sticking with what they've done before. It didn't look like he flipped it this time, so that's going to take out the Luke at least. Emphas Nest able to get the damage done from the discard pile that time. So you've got another unit on the board, but here's where all that blue removal comes in.
Yeah, one of the things that I don't think we've kind of talked about enough really is that this Yoda deck is great at keeping cards in hand as well. And earlier we did see that C-3PO stick around for a very long time. So the available resources to NinjaFerret is pretty vast, and we do finally see the Vigilance.
Yeah, gonna take out the Leia and heal for 5, so going down to 6. So rather than taking the cards off the opponent's deck, just trying to remain as safe as possible, I guess, is NinjaFerret. But what do you think about this? I kind of wanted to see the decking just because I think against Han, that's something that would work. But it's such a fringe scenario that I would imagine it's not something you run into a lot. There's the foil OP border Yoda and a little bit of damage. the Concorde Dawn interceptors from the Millennium Falcon there.
See, knowing that you're running Yoda as well is even more reason why I think early on it might have made sense to kind of commit to the decking your opponent, because cards like Yoda, they can represent additional ways to force your opponent to draw out. It's, again, a niche scenario, like you said, but you do get to choose the number of players. And so if your opponent has almost no cards left in their deck, or if they're out, then it's essentially just making them take more damage when Yoda dies. Yeah. So I would have liked, especially when Ninja was still, at 1 or 2 damage on the base, I would have liked to have seen that Vigilance pop off and get this decking strategy going. I believe it was only a 1 of in Ninja's list, but I know he's also running Kanan, and that also helps with that strategy as well.
Yeah, very true. And these Han Solo lists as well, they don't tend to go very wide unless you're talking about a U-Wing reinforcements turn where you happen to hit, a couple 3s or something like that. Usually you're looking at playing your 1 big 7 drop per turn to try to have a big board impact immediately and kind of gain the advantage from that. So even more reason to not be too concerned about the hand size of the Han player. But I think we're in for a long one.
Yeah, I mean, the signals that we're getting from NinjaFerret says long one, because like I said earlier, there was the opportunity to maybe pursue the decking strategy, but given that they sat on the Vigilance for as long as they did, it's very clear that they are first and foremost just making sure that they are not dying, and then they'll figure it out from there. And that's fine. That's an entirely viable strategy, especially if you're playing double blue control. But we do finally see the Zillo Beast.
We see a Zillo Beast get played in a game. I feel like that doesn't happen. Everyone talks about playing the Zillo Beast Charmer. Very few actually do it. It is a 10-10, just to refresh people's memory, because we don't see this one a lot. It's a 10-10 for 9. When played, give each enemy ground unit -5/-0 for the phase. So it shuts off the attack on the other side. And it says, when the regroup phase starts, heal 5 damage from this unit. So it self-heals even. And that is a card you don't see on the board very often. Enfys Nest takes out Yoda. Just double checking that the appropriate number of different costed cards are in there to do the damage.
Yep.
And yeah, why not? If you're not quite sure what you want to do yet, why not use that Yoda ability to take a turn? I mean, that's one of my favorite things about playing Yoda, is that you have this kind of like extra prep action, right? Where it's like, all right, well, I don't want to make a big decision right now, or, it's kind of near the end of the turn, but I still want to stick around and see what's up. I'm going to just use that Yoda ability. Set up the C-3PO.
Also, just to be clear, I think you said Enfys Nest. If somebody is listening to this while they work, it was Fennec Shand. That's why we were talking about different costs and damage.
I told you I'm tired.
We have a U-Wing coming down, though.
Yep. See what it can find. Unfortunately, we have to just kind of wait and see, because the players probably don't want to show each other their cards.
I mean, I don't see why not.
Yeah, just play with open hands,
Yeah, exactly. No big deal.
Yeah. I mean, you kind of are. You see what C-3PO draws every turn, right? So
right.
You know exactly what's in there, right? But I think if anything's going to accelerate this game, it's going to be a 10-10 on the board from NinjaFerret. That's some serious damage
say that,
if it gets through.
Yeah, I was about to say, the biggest issue is, I remember RedHuskyEverett in the main deck was running 3 spare the target. So that alone is a great way to just buy yourself time in an economic way. It's just 3 resources, and you're resetting your opponent, because they have to replay the Zillo, wait a turn, and then try to get a swing off. But if you bounce it again, it's kind of rinse repeat for a bit.
Mm-hmm. The funny thing is that, like, if you're playing the Bounce the Zillo Beast game, you're still not really going to be able to get any damage in with whatever you've got on the board, because it's just going to keep giving it -5 power every time they play it. So they can kind of just run you out of bounces and be okay with it, because they're not going to be taking a lot of damage in return, probably. Unless they have a lot of stuff in the air, which right now Red Husky doesn't. Tech comes down. What's the
All right.
response going to be?
Tech is the kind of card that really opens up the game. It is something that can obviously extend your hand, but it makes your opponent suddenly have to play around so many more things, right? When you're looking at somebody's hand size and you're kind of calculating, like, what are the chances they have one of these? How many of these have I seen them play, etc. It's a whole lot easier to kind of do that math if your opponent's on like 2 or 3 cards. But there is a plethora, a veritable cornucopia, if you will, of resources in front of RedHuskyEverett, and every one of those is now an option. Now, that being said, again, if NinjaFerret had maybe chased that discard from the deck strategy earlier, every time you smuggle something, you replace a card from your deck, and so that speeds things up. This could have been a trap that was laid by Ninja saying, okay, play your tech and then smuggle a bunch of stuff, and you'll just deck. But we'll see how this goes.
I love the idea, right? I mean, the decking strategy is great. I mean, it's easy for us to say, being at our, like 10,000 foot view, getting to see everything going on turn to turn. But when you're in the, and there's a spare the target probably come in on the Zilla Beast, yep. But when you're in that playing situation, like I've been decked once in Star Wars Unlimited, and it was by you during a draft match when I was playing Han Solo, coincidentally. So I've never seen anyone get decked or have been involved in a decking situation at a local
and maybe,
or a store showdown. It's so rare.
Maybe this is also why I keep mentioning it, because I agree. I do not see other people do it often. However, in testing with you and in testing with some other people, I have personally done it more often than is probably the norm. And so I just think that it might be a hesitancy for people to shift to that, right? Because everybody goes in and you kind of, what your deck is supposed to do. And that's fine if it does that, 9 times out of 10, or, even 95 times out of 100. But if your deck is capable of transitioning, you just kind of become that much better of a player. So I'm always trying to kind of push the envelope with it. And you're right. I did do it against you, and I think I have more faith in it. But with that being said, we have a takedown on the tech, so that's gonna no longer provide RedHuskyEverett with the extended hand, if you will, of the resources.
That's always the concern, right? Plo Koon comes in. Okay, and you do have the coordinate too. So wow, it happened. Yeah, it happened by virtue of this Yoda deck just not killing things too quickly, just doing a lot of restored, throwing a lot of road bumps or speed bumps in the way rather. But some damage did get through. I missed a couple early on. It's actually 8-1 right now. But there he is. There goes my hero. He's not actually my hero, but
no,
it felt like the right thing to say. No, I mean he's cool. I'm not anti Plo Koon. I just wouldn't say he's my hero. Who's your hero in Star Wars, Charmer?
I mean, Sabine's my favorite character, but I think my hero is probably Asajj, because she had the courage to leave the dark side behind and go out on her own and at least attempt to be better, right? Like,
she had quite
her redemption arc is actually really solid, and so I'll say Asajj. But
all right,
NinjaFerret is in a rough spot all of a sudden, because, as you said, a lot of stalling and restoring. But as weird as it sounds, that Zillo Beast, when it came down, it looked like everything was shifting in Ninja's favor.
Right.
But then a simple 3 resources and spare the target meant that RedHuskyEverett could commit so many more cards to the board, and Ninja's fallen behind.
Yeah, it's really interesting the amount of damage that was done after the spare the target sent the Zillo Beast back, right? And now you look at the next turn coming up here, NinjaFerret, it seems like you're kind of obligated to drop the Zillo Beast again just to reduce the power on the ground, first of all. That said, there's still a minimum of 5 coming through in the air right now. So you don't even remove, a lot of the damage for the purpose of, you've got 11 health left. It's going to drop the Zillo Beast anyway. I agree. I think you kind of have to. But NinjaFerret's starting to sweat a little bit here, maybe.
Yeah. I mean, I'd like to see what the hand is, because depending on what the options are, perhaps Zillow Beast actually isn't the right play. Yeah, you kind of slow down the ground here, and that is important, as you said, but it does commit so much of your turn and of your resources here that you're still going to take this damage from space, and you still don't have an answer for space. I don't know what the hand state of NinjaFerret is, but I think that if you instead would have had some like spot removal to maybe clean up at least the Falcon, because that's also just going to be a recurring threat, it might have been worth it to go a different way, but
maybe
it's hard to tell.
It's funny because this is why I keep advocating that double vigilance heroism decks should at least run one super laser blast, because the games are probably going to be really long. Getting to 10 resources to cast that super laser blast is definitely not out of the question at all. I mean, you're paying 9 for a Zillow Beast, you got extra resources beyond that. So I kind of like throwing one of those in as just a tech option for this kind of situation, right? Sometimes you just do need that board clear that heroism just doesn't have access to in double blue. So, why not go off aspect for a little bit with that?
Well, there is the what is it? Is it it's the Battle of Christophsis?
Battle of,
or
you need to like exploit a bunch or something for that, don't you?
Well, I mean, it reduces the cost. The base cost is 15, right? So you would have to have an exploit of like 2 to have it start comparing to super laser, but it's also one-sided. So I'm just saying, if you're somebody who's like, I just don't want to run super laser in my heroism deck, maybe you just really don't like the thematics of it, there is another option.
It's even more expensive though, unless you can find a way to build a deck that actually makes it cheaper. But home one, or not home one, a Bright Hope replaces the other Bright Hope. Will anything get bounced here? It doesn't look like it.
Yeah, that's a really interesting play.
I guess
replace one.
I was gonna say, yeah, there we go. Okay, you have to bounce something, I would say. And it looks like they did for the card draw, yeah. And there's the tech, it looks like. Okay. So there was another tech, apparently. That's another thing, too, that, like, we were talking about Bright Hope, but Home 1 can also bring tech back as well. Something to think about. Yeah. If there's another Home 1 lurking in there somewhere.
All right. NinjaFerret here, staring down what looks like potentially insurmountable odds. But we do have some options available. Earlier when I was saying like, hey, I've just really come around on redemption, this would be a great time to drop a redemption.
Yeah, looks like that's going to be game 1 though, as the hand is revealed by NinjaFerret. Red Husky, our challenger, takes game number 1. We'll have to see if our Conqueror of the Cave, NinjaFerret, can tie it up in game number 2. We are back with game number 2 between our reigning Conqueror of the Cave, NinjaFerret, and the opponent, the winner of game number 1, RedHuskyEverett. Let me zero out the life totals here. There we go. Only needed to take 1 off the board for RedHuskyEverett. He got up to 3 damage on base that game. But, despite all the late game power that heroism has in blue, the Luke Skywalkers, the redemptions, it just couldn't get him over the line. But there's the phase. Which phase is that? Phase 1 clone trooper, I believe it is. The 2 for a 3/2 vanilla clone. No text on that one. Initiative claimed by NinjaFerret as well after the thing. And there's another resupply from Red Husky. So that classic Han Solo 1 start.
Yeah. So to answer your question, this always throws me as well. It is a phase 1 clone trooper. The way I remember it is the generic one is the first wave. That's why it's generic.
Makes sense.
Right. Phase 2 clone trooper is the one with ambush. I like to use that one a lot in limited. And so it's phase 2. So now he's got some skills. And then there is technically a phase 3, but it's the dark trooper. But that's the one that's, Imperial and has like all the keywords, but that's why it has all the keywords, right? Because it's phase 3.
Yeah. There you go. Now we know. Thank you for the lore connection.
Well, that's just how I remember it. I've been trying to give
I would take that as
mnemonic
canon.
devices for as we cast these things, how I can remember the names of things. I was like, oh yeah, that's a good way for me to remember it. And Red Husky's going to remember it because he just took 3 damage from it.
Yeah. There you go. And tech, wow, played early on. Interesting. I mean, this is a tech again that you can bring back later in the game here. And to a certain extent, you just kind of need stuff out there, and we'll see. Maybe there is something in the resources that you can get out with tech here. I think DJ is in the deck. So are we going to see the classic tech DJ play here?
Very well could. I think that when you see a tech this early, it means one of 2 things. It's either that your hand is really clunky and you just want some early board presence, which would make sense. With that Phase 1 Clone Trooper, the tech at worst is just a vanilla 2/5 that can trade into it and survive, right? You get that value trade. But if your hand is not clunky, this also could be setting up, as you said, a great opening play, something like the tech DJ, where you can put your opponent behind. And in Han 1, when you're already, typically way ahead on resources, if you put them behind as well, it can go a long way.
Yeah, and for anyone who's unfamiliar with this, as we see the 6th resource go down, so maybe we aren't going to see the DJ tech play after all, because you only need 5 resources to make that happen. But normally DJ costs 7 to smuggle out, but tech can make it cost 5 because tech gives it an additional optional smuggle cost of base cost plus 2. And that's where that comes from. There's a Han Solo flip. Yeah. So does NinjaFerret? Oh no, not again. Oh, okay, it's not. It's Sugi instead. So no perilous position this time around.
Yeah, no perilous position. So this one is interesting because Sugi is a 4/6, and traditionally the smuggle cost I think is 6, if I remember right.
It is, yeah, that's right.
I guess play it for 4. I was gonna say we were just playing it. Okay.
Yeah.
I thought for some reason with the way that the hand gesture was, I thought he was smuggling it. And I was like, I don't know why that would be smuggled, but
yeah,
it's because it wasn't.
I believe it was just played, yeah, but it didn't,
just played as 4.
Yeah, it didn't last for very long though, as that set 1 Han Solo unit came out, slammed it into the discard pile here, and now this is kind of like the dream board for Han Solo 1, right? Where you've got the leader Han out, you've got unit Han out, you've got a way to generate resources, you've got a way to really put pressure on your opponent here, and a way to control the board too. So it's a little bit scary here.
Yeah, this is not where you want to be if you are NinjaFerret. This is in many ways very similar to the game state that we saw at the end of last game, where Red Husky just started to pull ahead. Now, at the end of last game, it was because we saw NinjaFerret playing the Zillo Beast that got bounced, and then that opened up Red Husky to playing a plethora of units. But here, it's just been, standard Han 1. I'm going to play, stuff on curve, and then I'm going to have my Han flip turn, which puts me way ahead if you don't have an immediate answer.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen 2 very different results, right? We saw Red Husky get slowed down a lot by that answer being there in game number 1. This time, the answer wasn't there, and now NinjaFerret's staring down, what is that, like tons of damage, like 12 damage on board right now in total.
Yeah, and this is not a good sign if the first action you're taking is attacking with the phase here. Does put the damage on the Han Solo, so that's a bit of a tell that there might be some sort of follow-up removal. I was going to say, Red Husky would be smart to attack with this now.
Yep.
Because I suspect we might see something like a vigilance, for example, come down.
Yeah, or a takedown or something like that. Whenever you take a little bit of health off there and you're playing against blue, you do have to. Do you feel like you want to attack here? It looks like it was Yoda ability first off, and then that's going to allow Han Solo leader to come in for 4 more. Put down that extra resource.
I think if you're already kind of committing to, I'm going to do something that kills this Han, it means you're not stopping the other Han?
Oh,
Okay.
I like it. Nice. Okay.
That's why we saw the Yoda ability. And that's also why we saw the damage. It was really to kill your own unit to get the Yoda trigger to put Luke back on top. What a play.
Yeah, nice, clever heads-up play by NinjaFerret there to set up the You're my only hope to get the discount on Luke Skywalker, to get the -6 on the Han Solo leader. And man, just when you send the leader back, then the U-Wing reinforcements come out. So RedHuskyEverett just building the board right back up again. What's it going to be? Got a lot of good options here.
Yeah, building the board back up, but depending on what they grab, Ninja could claw their way back into a reasonable spot. This is where you're really hoping Red Husky does not find a lot of space units, right? You want it to be something on the ground that you can deal with. Instead, we see the Enfys Nest come down, and that actually bounces the Concorde Dawn Interceptors. But
yeah,
with the Luke down there, you have the ability to, maybe snag initiative, get that restore and a trade on something early, and then continue to fight for control on the ground when you have your Yoda deploy coming up, right? You can take out another unit, have 2 restore units there. You just really needed Red Husky to not have space there, and so this might be an opening for Ninja to get back into this game.
Could be. There's a lot of stuff over there for RedHuskyEverett too, and when you start to go wide against Heroism Blue like this, they start to really kind of struggle, because you're not going to have the Snoke, you're not going to have the Super Laser Blast that we were talking about, you're not going to have ways to deal effectively with a lot of units, unless you're maybe playing like an Obi-Wan or something to just kind of throw a roadblock in front of them. But the single target removal of blue starts to suffer a little bit. That said, when you have something like Vigilance, where you can remove a body and you can heal for 5, that suddenly puts you in a little bit better position to survive things.
Yeah, this is interesting because it does open up Red Husky to maybe answering the Luke before you get the restore on that. If Red Husky has the blaster that they could smuggle here, for example, then the Enfys could trade into the Luke and prevent the restore. But I do think it's still the right call, because the other option, if you're Ninja, is you could have attacked with your Luke to guarantee you got that restore and then cleaned something up. But then the Han would have cleaned up your Luke in return, right? So you want to deal with that first and then just kind of hope that Husky doesn't have an answer.
Well, we're about to find out here. 4 resources get tipped sideways. All right, it's going to be a Leia.
Yep.
All right, gets smuggled out by the tech, actually. That's why I ended up being 4. That's going to tap down the Luke Skywalker. It's going to exhaust it and prevent all that healing that we just talked about. So really nice use of the tech there. And this is why Han Solo loves tech, right? If he stays out, you can start to do all sorts of tricks like this.
Well, and even more so, this Red Husky version, as we said at the start, is a bit more of a toolbox, right?
Yeah.
You have different cards for different scenarios, and when you have attack, it just opens up all of those options even more, so you get rewarded for those 1-ofs and 2-ofs that you're running.
Right. I like this match. This has become one of the most interesting matches we've had on Conquer the Cave, because there's just a lot of scenarios that we haven't been seeing a ton of. But dire straits for our current champion here. 20 damage on the base, down a game, is NinjaFerret. There's a Greedo as well. Why not? Welcome to the party, Greedo. Greedo and Han working together, it's a beautiful thing.
We are running into a scenario, though, where NinjaFerret does have initiative, has a Luke, and is finally going to be hitting 7 resources. I know that it seems really odd because Red Husky has had more than 7 for a while now, but that's just the nature of Han 1. But we're finally at a spot where that Yoda can have the deploy. And this is what I was talking about the turn before, right? Where if you can just get yourself into a position where you can stabilize and even more so kind of focus on cleaning up the ground. That's why it was so important that Red Husky whiffed on space units with that U-Wing, because this is where Ninja can potentially turn the corner. So Luke does clean up the tech, turns off some of that utility while also restoring 3.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to try to incentivize RedHuskyEverett to attack into that Luke now to try to finish it off, which is going to eat up even more of the board that exists over there. And we know the Yoda's coming down too, so this could be a big swing turn. And with things like Redemption out there that have the potential to heal almost a full third of your base's health, it's not over till it's over. And what's the play going to be? Going in with Enfys Nest, just trying to push damage. And so this is Red Husky basically saying, I feel like I can maybe win this. I'm going to say that you don't have the answers. I'm going to just trust that you don't have the healing, but I don't know. I'd be very nervous about that against this deck in particular, especially on a flip turn.
Well, even more so though, as I'm looking at that, on the other side, I know that Ninja wants to activate Yoda, and now we see why, right? We have the "You're My Only Hope." I was gonna say,
yep.
I know that you want to activate your Yoda, but there was a scenario where with a blaster, you could have been, just a couple of damage away from dying. But setting up this "You're My Only Hope" to get an early redemption is absolutely worth it. And then on top of this, we still have the Yoda deploy coming as well. And even if you hit something small, you're going to get value because there is the Greedo and the Leia. I mean, it'd be nice if you hit something big and can clean up the Enfys, but your Yoda's going to get value on the deploy no matter what. Yeah,
exactly. I was kind of nervous about this, and this is the reason why. The healing comes in. He heals a full 8, by the way. And the best thing for NinjaFerret is that there's not even an answer in the air right now for RedHuskyEverett. Sure, I mean, you could play Millennium Falcon or something like that to just trade with it, but there's a potential for some damage to come through in the air now.
Yeah, that is a not insubstantial amount of damage that will come if you cannot deal 1 damage to that redemption. And again, this is why that card's just been growing on me, because it does provide you with a ton of utility for potentially healing your units. It can bail you out if you have taken a lot of damage early. It's still a very reasonable threat in space. And in particular in these Yoda decks, like we saw in game 1, it can also be something that can be used to clean up a lot of the kind of meta threats, right? Being 8 means it cleans up, Darth Vader's and Maul's and Enfys and a host of things that cost 7.
Yeah. So he flips the perilous position. Elects to take out the Greedo. Are we going to see the use of the Greedo when defeated? Doesn't look like it.
What?
The decision could still be being made here. Because, I mean, you could go for it and just kind of soften some things up.
Soften some things up.
I mean,
I guess so. I will admit my what was kind of like in sarcasm earlier, just because I didn't think that there'd be a reason to do it. Mostly because you've got the Yoda and you've got the Luke there, and there's not a lot of stuff where you get the additional trade-off for that health threshold. We do, however, see Plo Koon come down, who had coordinate again. So that is a 2 count on the coordinate for Plo Koon.
It happened. I would be more on the fence about Greedo, because on the one hand, you're not a super event heavy deck. You've got a good amount. You've got enough to consider it, but you're not like an ultra event heavy deck that you're more likely than not to get the Greedo ability off. But I think 2 damage on something like a Yoda means a lot. I mean, a 9 HP leader, you have to just kind of chunk it down over time, and so I'd be a little bit tempted at least.
Yeah. That being said, the Yoda not only cleaned up what was remaining of Plo Koon, but did also restore 2. So we're at a was 17-7, but now with the damage coming in from Enfys, it's going to go back up to 22.
Yep. And Yoda coming in, healing again.
Yep.
Really putting me to
work.
And
getting some damage on base.
Counting. Finally, it's happened. 11 damage total on base right now. There's a Marauder. Oh, okay. All right, so that is going to be a trade. But at least you get rid of the redemption.
I was just thinking to myself, I'm kind of surprised that it was the Yoda swing, because with the exception of another Leia, there's not a lot that this Han deck can do to stop that Yoda from swinging. A lot of the stuff is like bounces that can't target your leader. Whereas the redemption had a lot of things like the Marauder, for example, that could come into it. And I would have just liked to have seen the damage get on the base there. But
I guess the question is, how often do you really see a Marauder coming out of a deck like this? I've seen, because this is a very, forgive the kind of pun, techie Han list, right? Where this has a more kind of one-ofs and fringe kind of scenario cards than I've seen in a lot of kind of toolbox Han lists. I like it, but on the NinjaFerret side of things, you might not necessarily be expecting that Marauder to come down. So I wonder if didn't expect
you're not wrong.
it,
I will say I'm probably just biased because I've played against your version enough, and usually you have some Marauders floating around.
No, I never run Marauder in my Han. I did run it in my Bo3 list. I think that's what you might have been thinking of.
Oh, yeah.
I did hit you with
I just
a lot
know when
of
I've played against you, I've ran into it. So now when I see green heroism, I'm always thinking like, there's probably a Marauder.
That's understandable. I have put the fear of Marauder into you with the Bo3 list for sure. With the Han list, though, I think you can include it. I think there's definitely some good reasons for that. You do tend to fill up your trash with things, so you do get the extra resource from it a little bit more often. But it is a little bit clunky to just play too. Perilous position on the Enfys Nest, it looks like. Okay.
This is interesting, if only because Enfys Nest does kind of care about its attack power, and so perhaps this is a preventative thing where you're going to play something after this that you didn't want to get hit, right? If you have like a Kanan in hand, for example, and you wanted to play it, Enfys was a bit of an issue for you there.
Yeah,
but
it doesn't prevent you from bouncing the Village Protectors. That's 2 power for 2 power, so it's fine. There are to 3 rather, but it does put you in like takedown range, or maybe that's part of the thought process. We'll see. Leia gets played.
Yep, that's going to tap down the Yoda to stop the restore.
Yep, I like how Red Husky's been playing. You can tell when he's excited to play a card because he just throws it down with conviction. He's like, Leia. Did that with the Han earlier. Zilla Beast.
NinjaFerret here just really likes this Zillow Beast. I'd again love to know what the rest of the hand is, because I would be maybe concerned here. Not as concerned as the previous game, because you at least have other units. You still have your Yoda. You have the unit Yoda as well. You've got the Village Protectors. With Zillow coming down, it means that the Enfys is absolutely not bouncing them anymore. So they are going to get their value. But I was just about to say, a spare the target is still an issue, because it will allow Red Husky to catch up in terms of resource tempo, right? So if you're at home and you're kind of wondering what I'm talking about, if you spend 10 on something and your opponent answers it with 3 resources, they have 7 more to work with for the turn, right? That's how they catch up. Yes, it's not gone for good, but it doesn't matter. You kind of catch up on board. That's why it was so devastating in game 1, and maybe it's enough for Red Husky to claw back into this here in game 2, but it does look like Ninja is much closer to stabilizing this time around.
Yeah. Saw him clean up that 2 damage on the 2/3 there as well on the Kuil, because the Leia actually was 0-2. Even though Zilla Beast was gone, that -5 power is effective for the stage. And Village Protectors.
Oh, I guess that is a Kuil.
Yeah. That's the
I
OP.
thought it was
that's OP Kuil. Yeah.
I thought it was the OP Yoda earlier.
Oh, well, he did have both. Earlier he played the OP Yoda. Now he's playing the OP Kuil. There was some good, some of the better organized. Blue got a lot of good organized play cards. I felt like
they really have.
Perilous Position now too. Yeah.
Perilous Position, Kuil, Yoda, Takedown.
Yeah.
And then even kind of thinking about stuff from the starter decks, Razor Crest is now totally playable. All right, so you have the hyperspace OP version of that. Enfys here, attacking into the Village Protectors and just killing them because of Saboteur, right? You bypass the shield, you kill the unit, and then also choosing to bounce the Kuil.
Yeah, why not? Why not make your opponent play it again?
That's a great play.
Yeah, I mean, you delay the restore a little bit. You're still having to deal with that Yoda. Oh no, and another redemption. That's redemption number 2, by the way, for those keeping track. Is he going to go for the full 8? I would imagine he probably is. Yep, for sure.
I think you either go for the full 8 or if you were 1 damage more on your leader, I would say that you would only go 7 on your base and 1 on the Yoda. The big thing right now is that Yoda is still at 7 health, so it's outside of the Han attack into it range. If Yoda had 1 more damage on him, and then I would say it's totally worth it to peel 1 off of him. But this is the last redemption. Again, this is a list that only had 2 in the main deck, but I'm a believer.
Yeah, it's game number 2, so there could have been some sideboarding between games. It's entirely possible. Hello, welcome back, Greedo. We also saw the Echo-based Defender hit the board again. And you're going to need another answer in the air, too, as we go to this next phase for RedHuskyEverett. Is there going to be another Marauder? Is there going to be another Falcon, maybe, to handle this damage coming through the air from the redemption? Our base health is even up.
We still haven't seen home 1 either.
Yeah, that's true. We know there's at least 1 home 1 in there in the main deck.
Home 1 is a great play because depending on the game state or the situation, right, it could bring back your Falcon, right? If you have a Falcon in the discard pile, so you can do the home 1 into the Falcon. Falcon cleans up redemption, and now you rule the sky sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very true. Bring back the tech as well. I think that'd be what I would be really most tempted to bring back with this deck is the tech to try to grab some stuff. But I guess it depends, too, on how sure you were that they were just going to blow the tech up with something. Welcome back, Zillow Beast. Going to get it to stick one of these turns.
Yeah, if... if you've ever played Limited, you hear things like, forcing a draft, right? Forcing a leader, forcing a play style. Mm-hmm. If we've learned anything, Ninja is just determined to force this Zillow Beast one way or the other.
Huge Zillow Beast fan.
And I respect it.
Me too, There's DJ. Okay. Did that just get played, though? It didn't come out of it. It didn't get smuggled out.
Yeah, I was going to say, I would say it's just played because that looks like just 3 resources. So just a standard deploy. Still a 3/5.
Yeah, it's a 3/5 on the board. Doing the abilities, not impossible, but kind of a challenge over webcam anyway. So just play him. Quite the board being built by our challenger here, RedHuskyEverett. Looks like that's going to be the attack. NinjaFerret going in there. This time going before the Yoda.
Yeah. When you get maraudered, you're like, okay, wait a minute.
Yeah, you know what they say, marauder me once, fool, shame on me. Marauder me twice, shame on me. I don't know. I don't know that phrase very well.
All right, Echo-based Defender numero dos hits the ground arena.
That's right.
Yoda cleans up the first one, does not take any damage in return because of the -5/-0 of the Zillow Beast, but you do get to restore 2.
Awaken from the depths. I have no idea where that is from in Star Wars lore, by the way. Kuil is back. Do you know?
I don't know. I'll be honest. When you said awaken from the depths, my brain went to the Hanna-Barbera cartoon of Godzilla because the theme song starts with up from the depths, 30 stories high, breathe. I know the whole thing. And when you said that, I was just singing the song in my head.
I don't remember that at all. The only Hanna-Barbera depths related cartoon I know of is Pirates of Dark Water.
Well, I mean, that was a great cartoon.
Great cartoon.
And if there was ever a cartoon that I wish Netflix would try to revive or whatever, it'd be that.
Absolutely.
Because we never got an ending.
I own the original hand painted key production art for that show.
We got a bright hope hitting the table in space to slow down the redemption. So again, not an immediate answer, but another reason why, the previous time swinging with the redemption might have been important because there were speed bumps.
Yeah. As you are wont to do. But now the Zillow Beast is poised to attack. Can he get rid of the Echo Base Defender in the way first? Oh, he definitely can. He can. There's the Echo Base Defender taken out. The way has been opened for a Zillo Beast assault. Oh, never mind.
Yep.
Oh, I just want to see the Zillo Beast attack once. Is that so much to ask, Charmer?
The problem is the Zillo Beast is so big it doesn't fit in the cave. This is Conquer the Cave after all.
That's a
so
good
it keeps
point.
being sent outside.
It's like Obi-Wan said, you've done that yourself. Yep.
Yep.
Wow, down to 3 damage on base. So NinjaFerret slowly going back to 0 here. Redemption still in the air. You know, what's the plan now? Because the thing is, as far as like late game power goes, NinjaFerret's going to have the edge between the Lukes, between the Zillo Beasts, between the Redemption, right? So you do just kind of run out of steam sometimes as this Han 1 leader. You've got like, you know, as far as like scary big top end units, Han Solo from set 1 is kind of it, you know?
Yeah. You're not wrong. Well, I mean, you do have the home one, right?
Mm-hmm.
That is something else. And that being said, we know NinjaFerret, besides the Redemptions, doesn't have a lot of space presence, so that could be an avenue that is considered.
Oh, thank you. I needed to read this. Okay, coordinate when played. This unit captures an enemy non-leader unit that costs something. I didn't get all of it in there, but I'm glad that I wasn't the only one that needed to refresh on that one. Yeah.
I remember,
think so.
right?
Yep. It is, I'm looking it up now.
Yeah, Sanctioner's shuttle. I just pulled it up.
There we go.
It is 3 or less.
Yeah.
My memory was correct. I'm getting better.
Yeah. Congratulations.
I'm fighting the dementia.
Thank you, Star Wars Unlimited. Thank you, Zillo Beast. 1 damage on base. Now as it's up to 21 for, oops, that's the wrong way. There we go. For RedHuskyEverett. All right, we got a tech coming down now on the NinjaFerret side of things. I wonder what lurks within his resources. We're going to find out pretty shortly, I would imagine. That Yoda's lived for a long time.
Some big stuff.
I would think so, yeah. Wonder if we got another Luke in there, maybe?
Yeah, I was just thinking we haven't really seen all of the top end, right? Like we saw the Luke, 2 Redemptions, and the Zillo Beast. So there should be some more Lukes in there.
Well, we know there's another Zillo Beast in the hand, but I would imagine, you know, maybe there's a early resourced Luke or something like that too. But the question is, does tech live long enough to get to do any of that? As we're moving to another action phase. I've lost track of which one this is. It's been a while. We're deep in the game. At one point, NinjaFerret was over 20 damage on base, now down to 1 again. Where the damage on base for RedHuskyEverett slowly but surely, it seems like, creeping up here. So I don't want to say game 3. I don't want to call. We don't know what happens here. I don't.
Yeah,
you know,
we do not know how this ends.
We don't know how this ends.
It's feeling like this might be the little ninja that could.
Maybe.
Chugga.
Ferrets are small but resilient creatures, you know. Yeah. It's
just running circles around this husky, tiring it out.
They're you know, this ferret is the mongoose to RedHuskyEverett's cobra.
Oh, so what you're telling me is NinjaFerret's real name is Ricky?
Maybe? Ricky Mongoose?
I thought you were making a Ricky Tiki Tavi reference.
No. I have no idea what that is.
It's there was a cartoon. I think it was also a children's book or a book. It's literally about a mongoose like versus a cobra. But I just remember it from my childhood. There's a cartoon. Ricky Tiki Tavi.
Well, that's a great reference, but unfortunately, that was not what I was making.
Oh man!
But fortunately for RedHuskyEverett, the Cobra strikes as home 1 drops in a Plo Koon from orbit to take out Yoda.
Well,
better Plo Koon it from orbit.
I'm gonna send you some homework.
Okay. Can't wait.
And it will be a link to Ricky Tikki Tavi, the cartoon.
All right, it's good to know. It's good to know.
I'm shocked. I can't believe you were making a Mongoose and Cobra reference, and I was not what I.
Well, that's just like a nature thing too, right?
I mean, it
like
is,
mongoose go
but-
after cobras. Like it's not only. It's like the cartoon got it from somewhere,
Yeah, but
from life. 6 damage on base now for NinjaFerret. Starting to creep up again. Tech, the sole survivor here right now. But NinjaFerret just biding his time until the Zillow Beast can strike again.
see a bunch of resources being exhausted here, but it comes from hand. Oh, so this is something that we haven't seen hit the board yet. It is something we saw in the list. Our good, not light, not dark, just in the middle force friend here. Does have Sentinel as well.
Yeah, Bendu. Wow. That's a name I haven't heard in a long time.
Of course I know him. He's me.
Bendu is you. And in case you're unfamiliar with Bendu, he's a Sentinel, 4/7 Sentinel, double vigilance, cost 6. On attack, the next non-heroism, non-villainy card you play this phase costs 2 less.
Yeah, I was trying to think of the things that benefit from that we know are in the list. So that'd be cards like Vanquish, Vigilance,
Zillow Beast.
Earlier I was trying to make the case for the invasion of Christophsis. Turns out that would be a card that would be reduced.
That's a very good point, actually. That's a really good point. Oh, Fennec Shan rocks in and takes out Bendu, though.
Yeah, Fennec Shand.
I think. Maybe not.
It's going to have to clear it. I think right now they're just trying to figure out whether there's enough where Fennec doesn't take damage in return, right?
Yeah.
There's got to be enough where with the on attack plus should get it done, but they did count through the 1 to 7.
Yep. This Han list does use Fennec Shan very well, whereas the other, like the tighter like Casino list I would use, just has mostly 3s. So Fennec doesn't work very well on that list. This list makes much better use of that ability, that on attack.
And I do think that's a product of running cards like Marauder, like the Greedo to have the 1-drops.
Yep.
The extra Leias just to make sure you have some 2s.
I like this list a lot. This is a very neat list. It's very flexible. Pretty cool.
Yeah, we have a flexible list on one side and a bend list on the other.
Jeez. Well, these games are just we're starting to lose our minds here.
No, that's just standard me. Really bad puns all the way around.
It's like, hey, let's just do Conquer the Cave right before right on the eve of Christmas.
Yeah.
Late in the evening. And
Christmas Adam.
That's right. The invasion.
That's how you should have known
offices.
that you were getting into it with me, because I was making jokes like Christmas Adam before we even started.
That's true.
Luke Skywalker.
Goodbye, Fennec Shan. Now it's just Kuiil and Luke hanging out. There's a R2-D2 on the other side, though. But this is what I'm talking about, where now this Han list is genuinely starting to run out of steam. Like, what are the threats left in this Han deck? There's not a ton. We've seen at least one of everything, if not multiples. There's a takedown, and that's going to take down the shuttle.
On the Sanctioner's shuttle, which will bring back the village protectors.
Very nice, very nice. There's the rare capture effect that we see here and there. All right, and back to another action phase. So, now we look at the point where Red Husky finds themselves as the player with over 20 damage on base, and there is a lot. In fact, there is exact lethal on the board, technically speaking, right now. On the NinjaFerret side of things, there is 8 damage presented there on the ground.
It's really hard sometimes with these overhead webcams to kind of get the depth perception of the cards, but it does also look like both players are getting kind of low on cards in deck, right? I think we're hitting the
have to be,
20 or so cards left which again could become a factor. I know Ninja hasn't been using the discard from deck strategy as of yet, but we haven't seen Kanan hit the board, and I believe there's still one Vigilance left in Ninja's deck. So if for whatever reason he doesn't close it out in the near future, that last Vigilance or even a Kanan could be enough to generate that last little bit of decking pressure.
I'll tell you why. I can tell you exactly why he's not going for the decking thing. It's because he was a Sabine player in set 1. He didn't play the like super long Palpatine control mirrors where everyone's just doing Vigilance restock wars, right? There's a clone. A clone has been played. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, the first clone in Conquer the Cave. And I think he's like, so you're gonna conquer, you're gonna clone the Village Protectors, right? And he's like, yeah. I guess maybe I will. Interesting. What do you think about that versus cloning like Luke or something?
I think it's
whoa.
You're just hoping for the defensive portion. So you say because a Jedi lightsaber has now hit Luke, but I just think that what was there was the desire to have the Sentinel, and I think Husky has just conceded because that's lethal, right?
I believe so. Yeah, that should very much be lethal, and once the clone's out of the way, I suppose. But that's that. NinjaFerret ties things up. We are indeed going to a game number 3. Here we are, game 3. NinjaFerret trying to maintain control of the cave versus RedHuskyEverett, the challenger, winner of game number 1, loser of game number 2. Who is going to take this series? We're going to find out in this epic showdown here, and this has been an epic one. This has definitely been our longest Conquer the Cave match by far. We've covered a lot of topics, both Star Wars Unlimited related and non-Star Wars Unlimited related. You almost got like an episode of Ice Cave Radio inside of the cast, I feel like, with this one too. So, you know, congratulations, you.
I think it's because,
again,
this has been one of our longer Conquer the Caves, and so it's allowed us to go a little off the rails. But
yeah, and I mean the players, like, there's some complex decision making being made here too, and so some of the players, like, they need to take a moment to get their thoughts in order and make the right decisions. And RedHuskyEverett, no decision needs to be made for the first turn of their game every single time here, going for the resupply, turn number 1 every time. And getting that early head start, which, you know, has helped. The funny thing is that they won the game that they were stuffed in the Han Solo flip turn. They lost the game that they got the good flip turn with the Han Solo unit coming out.
But I do think that the big difference between the two was that NinjaFerret actually had board presence game 2. Yeah. So he couldn't stuff it, but at least he had bodies, and that's kind of what we're seeing here for game 3 as well. Yes, Red Husky started with the resupply, but being able to start things off with a Phase 1 Clone Trooper into a Village Protectors does mean NinjaFerret has more, I would describe it as like board mobility, meaning that you can just choose to either pressure your opponent or make those trades or try to stall. The first game, it was all just relying on removal, right? So you stuffed your opponent, but you also just didn't have a way to kind of capitalize on the time that you had bought yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very true. I really like this Phase 1 Clone Trooper, by the way. It's just put in that little extra chip damage in game 2 and now game 3 here, and where we know there's not a ton of healing in RedHuskyEverett's Han deck, that matters, right? If games go long, that chip damage early on is really going to become impactful down the line.
Well, we also saw, at least in game 2, NinjaFerret was very good at utilizing it to trigger Yoda or turn on other effects as well.
Yeah, that too.
Whether that's a Luke or, you know, whatever it might be. And so again, just when you have presence on the board, you have a lot more options at your disposal as a Yoda player, because you can sacrifice some of your own units to either get your opponent's units at certain health thresholds or whatever. And this is a big Ewing. Holy cow.
I love this. I love this so much right now, because you are hitting blue where it hurts the hardest at the moment, right? There is no such thing as wide board removal in NinjaFerret's deck right now. That said, that second Village Protectors is actually going to be really impactful in helping clean this up. But I like the principle of going wide in this situation. from RedHuskyEverett here. Will it work out long term or not? I mean, that second sentinel with a shield on it's going to make it a little bit tougher, but I like the idea anyway.
Yeah, this is going to be really interesting to see how it plays out, because Red Husky did whiff on space. That was, I think, personally a bit of a problem in game 2 as well, because there was a wide open lane to continue pressuring there, and Red Husky didn't land it. We didn't land it here either. Yes, you go wide, but because NinjaFerret actually had early game plays, this phase 1 trooper can trade with one of the Echo Base defenders. When the Greedo does die, it might actually bait Red Husky into flipping a card to try to get rid of one of these village protectors. And if that misses, that could be another potential like good card gone. Here we're gonna have Fennec Shand come down though. This will be very effective.
Yeah, that is very clean, right? Able to go in there and take out the shield and then take out the unit underneath. And in theory, Greedo could do the same thing, right? I mean, you could go in and take out the shield, and then Greedo ability to try to just take out the unit too. So, maybe Red Husky does have a simple answer for these two Sentinels. Had a good answer for the first one.
I was going to say, this Sentinel that's left doesn't even have the shield token anymore, because it's the one that Han ran into the previous turn. So we are instead going to see a Vigilance here, clean up the other Echo Base defender,
and give a shield back to the village protectors.
I was going to say, give a shield. Again, I understand the thought process. I would have liked to have seen a discard here, because Greedo could have punished you, but instead flips a clone.
I mean, that's just like, belief in the heart of the cards right there. He's like, there's no way Greedo would do that to me. And he was right.
I've just been burned so many times that
I feel like whenever I want it to happen, it doesn't happen, But that's how it feels with everything in every card game ever like that, right? Where you really, really need it, that's when it doesn't happen. Another resource comes in for Han. What's it going to be? As I guess there's a little bit more damage on the Red Husky side of things now. Actually up to 8 on base, if I'm counting correctly. Or no, that's going to be... Because that looks like
no, it should be... Yeah, that should be 8. That should be correct, because it was a couple of whacks of the clone and I think one of the villagers.
Yeah. Well, it looks like a 5 and 2 2s and 1 though. So that would be 10 though, wouldn't it?
That would be the math, assuming that the math is mathing.
I'm just like...
You know what else is mathing?
What?
Bendu.
Bendu is mathing. Is that what Bendu does? I don't know. I haven't watched that episode of the Clone Wars or whatever it was.
Well, he maths when he attacks, and he can reduce the cost of your non-heroism.
That's true.
Non-villainy.
That is true.
Cards. But he's also a big Sentinel, which is important.
Yeah.
I believe right now there's not enough for Shand to kill him before taking damage back. However, Home 1 coming down is going to be very effective. I was just about to say is likely going to get that Echo Base defender to continue to protect the leader Han and the Fennec.
Yep, makes a lot of sense. Protect those units. Looks like it was initiative claimed by NinjaFerret. And what's the plan going to be? Just double checking. He does have enough different costs in there, right? 1, 2, 3. Or he probably has to do a little... Okay, so you got 3, and then the 4 damage from Fennec is enough. Nice trade.
There's got to be at least 3 to kill it, but I think he takes the damage back in return, and then Han will get the 4 base damage in.
Yep.
I like this initiative play from Ninja here, just because you are going into what should be your own flip turn. This should be resource turn 7 for Ninja, and you want to hopefully get a sequence of events going where you can hopefully activate your leader, put something on top to guarantee you have an answer for this Home 1 in the sky when you flip your Yoda. Does mean you're going to take some damage in return to do so, because you're going to have to remove one of your enemy's units before you can trigger your leader. But having initiative is going to help, because you can kind of, ideally pick what you want to get rid of. Something like a takedown would be great on the Han, for example, to set things off.
Yeah, we know that kind of thing is in there. 4 damage on Han as well. That means something like a perilous position would even be enough to take him out with a -2/-2.
Or even just another vigilance.
Yeah, or Luke. You've got a lot of answers. Nearly all the removal in NinjaFerret's deck right now can deal with that Han. What's it going to be? Village Protectors, though. That's number 3 hitting the board.
That village in the Dagobah Swamp is turbo protected.
That's right. Well, but for how long, 7 damage comes in from above, though.
Yeah, and we have some restore on the side of Red Husky, and this is going to be really relevant because not only is it the restore from the home 1, but as these other units attack, for as long as that sticks around, we should see additional healing. And instead we have a restored arc going out into space. So kind of telling, in my opinion, that Ninja might not have removal and is just hoping something crashes into the village protectors.
Ooh, that hurts a little bit, actually. Losing the Fennec Shan like that to the Greedo ability, and that's when Greedo burns you,
Yeah, but also Red Husky might have just done exactly what Ninja was hoping for, which is getting rid of the Greedo.
Mm-hmm.
And then that means the Yoda is live, and when we get the flip here, again, you want to get rid of the home 1. If you can't, I think Plo Koon is still reasonable, but
more restore. Yoda. Yep.
And there's the redemption to get rid of the home 1.
Yep. All right. Yep. Flipping it with the Yoda flip there, and Han comes in for another 4 now. And so we are seeing a lot of damage start to pile up on the base of NinjaFerret. That said, it's not like we haven't seen a lot of that damage come right back off again. Yoda's going to start that trend with 2 restore.
So the big difference between this and the last game, because this is where NinjaFerret did start to come back. The big difference, however, is one, previous game, NinjaFerret was able to use My Only Hope to get an early Luke. So it was a bigger unit. The other big difference is right now this Yoda has more damage on it. So next turn, Red Husky could have a Han to clean up the Yoda, and that would put Ninja much further behind. Whereas the previous game, he could keep that Yoda protected.
Now just trying to threaten lethal. Coordinates online again that Plo Koon has raid 3 with the Millennium Falcon out there.
Yeah. Well,
that said, there's
even
3
more
restore
so,
on
I
the
would
board,
say.
though. Okay.
I was going to say it's very telling that Red Husky has a smell of blood in the water because that Falcon went base instead of cleaning up the restored arc. So that's just like not even respecting the healing from the restored arc.
We've seen him play this way before, though, too. So the Han leader goes down. Yoda does that. Another restore here. And this is where I question that a little bit. I question going to base instead of going to the restored arc 170. Because, yeah, sure, you had the potential to maybe just end the game if they don't, do anything. But, of course, they will do something. And now the Marauder comes in. Okay, so that helps, I would say. But it doesn't look like... Let's see. It doesn't look like it's going to be lethal this turn.
Well, I was also kind of thinking, I wonder if there is a blaster in the resources. And that there was the consideration about, okay, if there's an opening, maybe that Plo Koon gets in for enough, right? But second redemption coming down. The first one was discarded with Yoda's ability, but this one will hit the board and heal some amount, but there's a decision being made here. Again, this is why I love the versatility, right? This could heal a bunch off your base. You could just leave it as a giant wall and hope your opponent doesn't have spare the target. You could peel some of this damage off your Yoda to try to keep that around, but does ultimately just decide to say, you know what, let's just heal 8 off my base.
Yeah, I think he's kind of thinking about it, again, like, can I make a better trade, like you're saying, but I like the idea of just doing the full heal. I mean, you're going to take that 6 damage that we're just seeing now with Plo Koon come in, so you might as well just put yourself in the best position to survive. And he does get the trade with the Millennium Falcon. That's a lot of damage, though, still staring at NinjaFerret. The Plo Koon doesn't have Raid 3 anymore, at least not for the moment, with Coordinate being offline.
Yeah, and I think that you're comfortable just giving up your leader to get the restore and also clean up the the Coon here.
True. A lot of resources for both players right now. Looks like 9 resources for NinjaFerret. That means we could see a Zillow Beast this turn. It is possible.
I was just thinking to myself, we got to see a Zillow Beast all 3 games, right? Like that's just...
Yeah. It's Zillow Beast o'clock. Yoda's going to take out Plo Koon. Maybe not, lore appropriate, but works for this game. Needs the restore, Needs
the restore. Also, I think you have to respect that another unit coming down, turning on the raid is kind of nightmarish.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
Even if you're like, okay, I have removal. If they play a unit, I can still remove something before he attacks. The problem is you're playing against a deck that's running U-wing reinforcements. And so if they do that and they hit like 3 units, now you're definitely not turning off coordinate. So overall, I like that plan.
Now
this is a smuggled Sugi.
I was going to say that this time coming out through smuggle. Oh, but Han Solo there for the response. Yeah. Oh, man. That is rough.
Earlier I was talking about how Perilous Position has changed the way I play with Punishing 1. Sugi's another unit that really benefits from Perilous Position because it turns on her Sentinel. And speaking of, we have a Perilous Position going on the Marauder.
Yeah, it doesn't finish it off with a negative, but it does bring it down to just 2 damage when it attacks. So anything NinjaFerret can do right now to reduce the damage is a big deal. As we go to the next phase. And now the big threat is at Han Solo. But maybe... Yeah?
I was about to say even more so because we saw Red Husky snap up the initiative. Mm-hmm. So this could just represent 6 right out of the gate, which would put NinjaFerret at 24 damage on base. And we've got no units on the board right now for Ninja.
I think that's pretty likely. That's exactly what we're going to see. Has NinjaFerret found another redemption, maybe? Luke Skywalker.
Yeah, I think your Luke is still playable because it would clean up the Marauder, even if you don't have your unit to die.
Exactly, yeah. Spark of Rebellion. We didn't see this in the first couple games. And this could be a very clutch Spark of Rebellion. No, not the Zillow Beast.
The Zillow Beast.
No. Oh, what did that Zillow Beast ever do to him? Oh, that's what you get. Now Perilous Position down on the Han Solo. So you do give up some damage, though. What do you think about that Spark Rebellion
I was just gonna say,
6 damage? I don't know.
Well, you were kind of put in a bad position because your Han was going to be impacted either way, right? No matter what you picked.
Yeah.
And so I get you have initiative. Let's do the Spark thing. But also, if your opponent does have 2 answers, now you get no damage. So I almost still feel like you snap off the 6 attack and then maybe you spark them.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where it's like hindsight is 20/20. But if you're playing double blue and they have nothing on the board, you have to assume they're sitting on like multiple things in hand. So hard to call.
Yeah, with 3-4 cards in hand, I think it's really hard to determine what's the right and wrong answer in that situation. Because, if he had attacked, great. The Zillow Beast would have done almost the same thing in terms of reducing the damage. But now there's a tech out for RedHuskyEverett, so who knows what's going to be coming out of resources this turn, unless NinjaFerret can do something about it. It's a Kuil. It's not going to really do anything about the tech right now. You can't talk your way out of this one, Kuil.
He has spoken.
That's right. But it doesn't matter.
This is actually such an interesting build by NinjaFerret because there are some things that are kind of at odds with itself. The Kuil does a great job of drawing a bunch of cards because you're so blue heavy. But there's also, cards where you're whiffing like the phase 1 clone trooper.
Sure.
And then as I think through, I'm like, the phase 1 clone trooper also doesn't have the direct synergy with Bendu either, but I still like the inclusion. We saw it do a bunch of work. So it's an interesting build because Ninja is saying, you know what, these are just powerful enough in a vacuum that I don't have to overthink my deck building to get the value out of these cards.
Yeah, I don't mind that. We did see a foil OP border Cloud Rider come in to take out Kuil. Doing it in style. And what's it going to be? Aha! The shuttle returns. Is this going to capture the Sentinel on NinjaFerret's side in space? That is actually kind of a nice use of that.
Concord Dawn Interceptors have been a very popular inclusion in these blue heroism lists for a bit. So having something that pressures in the same arena while getting them out of the way is a big deal.
We've got Yoda coming down now too for Ninja. Oh, there's the blaster.
There's the blaster.
It's a lot of damage. That's it's 6. Yeah.
I had a feeling earlier, like I said, when that Falcon went base instead of into the restored arc, I really felt like there was.
I think that's that. I think that might be almost it here. Because look, I mean, Tech and Marauder represent lethal. 2 from Marauder after the -2/-2, and 2 from Tech.
Well, Ninja.
You can find an answer.
He turned the resources sideways, but yeah, he's
to clean it up.
Looking,
that's it.
I think he's saying
didn't have an answer. Well, that's it. Wow. And so NinjaFerret only lasts 1 week here on Conquer the Cave, and our new champion, RedHuskyEverett, getting it done in style with a Set 1 Han Solo. Whoa, the video is off fast for NinjaFerret. Let's go back to us here. All right.
I was going to say, I think it's justified because
for sure. That was a long one. That was
discarded.
A long one. I know.
It's also long, but the Zilla Beast got discarded. Like that's the biggest
had my Zilla Beast.
Insult, right?
Yeah. I mean, to be in that game and then to spark a rebellion, your opponent's Zillow Beast, the ultimate disrespect. But what a great series, though. Props to NinjaFerret for coming on and first of all, last week knocking out our 3-time champion Davy Jones, and then putting up a really great fight this week around going to 3 games, playing a really entertaining double blue at Yoda list. You can go back to your PQ prep now. No more distractions here with our funny little show. So thanks to NinjaFerret for playing, and congratulations once again to RedHuskyEverett for winning and becoming our new conqueror of the cave. What's your takeaway from that match? I feel like there was so much to talk about with that one. There was so much to see with those 2 lists. My mind is racing. My vision of the game has expanded, I feel like.
Yeah, I think my takeaway is that I would love to have an afternoon where I could see both of those decks not just jammed against each other a number of ways, but also against some other decks as well. Just because there are a lot of, I think, neat things both of them were trying to do, and I just think that we were talking through it, right? It's not even just transition to the discard from the deck. We talked about several different decision points throughout. I really feel like if you spent time with either of those lists and you kind of just honed not just the list itself, but the play style with it, they're both just really flexible. The Han list in particular, having so many tools and the ability to dig for them is interesting to me, and I'd love to see how it performed against other decks as well.
Yeah, well, I mean, we'll see if he brings it back next week. We'll have to wait and find out. And when I say next week, I mean next year, because this is our last Conquer the Cave of the year. There's just it's too much to ask our wonderful Discord members to schedule games and play them over the Christmas break. Everybody should be out there relaxing. And sure, playing Star Wars Unlimited is a great form of relaxation as well. But we want you to go do it with friends. Go play some Twin Suns. Go to a local if you got one kind of between the holidays. Go have some fun. But until next time, any final thoughts, Charmer? We just end this one. We don't have any phrase at the end really to end this one.
Here's what I'll say at the end. If you do go play Twin Suns with your friends or family, keep it casual.
Absolutely. Keep it casual. We're not wearing the shirt, but we should have been. Keep it casual. You can buy that shirt on icecaveradio.com. Click merch. All right. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you next time. Have a wonderful holiday break. Have a great new year. And we will see you in 2025 for a lot more Star Wars Unlimited action on this channel. See you then.